Welcome to number 2 in this video series. And if I could tell you for how many of these would be in the series, that would be great, wouldn't it? But none of us really know that. And so we're glad to be able to connect with you in this way. We're into the beginning of what might be a long haul. And that can be both scary and frightening and anxiety producing. But it also provides an opportunity. And so we're learning lots of things about new ways to connect with each other, about slowing down, taking breaths, about how it is that a nation can come together and the different ways that people respond to all those things. And so in this video today, we will go through some of that kind of ritual. We've appreciated your emails and your phone calls and your suggestions. And we are continuing to protect the staff and the integrity of the building throughout all of this, and observing all the rules of social distancing and coming into your home to be with you in this time. So let us pause in this sacred moment to ground ourselves and be ready to experience a sense of the holy as it moves in and about and among us. Margaret?
We begin with the acknowledgement that we gather on the unceded land of the Coast Salish folks, specifically the Algonquin. We give thanks for their stewardship and the ways that they have cared for this creation for millennia. We pause now to light our Christ candle, the symbol of Jesus who walked this earth, who cared and loved for folks, who invited all to experience the goodness of life and to care for creation. I would invite you now to pause this video, and as you do so, to search for a candle in your home, to light the candle, inviting the Christ light to be with us all as we continue our time of worship this day. Thanks be to God. This morning's scripture is from the book of Mark, reading from chapter 14, verses 32 to 42. They went to a place called Gethsemane, and he said to his disciples, "Sit here while I pray." He took with him Peter and James and John and began to be distressed and agitated. And he said to them, "I am deeply grieved, even to death. Remain here and keep awake." And going a little farther, he threw himself on the ground and prayed that if it were possible, the hour might pass from him. He said, "Abba, Father, for you all things are possible. Remove this cup from me, yet not what I want, but what you want." He came and found them sleeping, and he said to Peter, "Simon, are you asleep? Could you not keep awake 1 hour? Keep awake and pray that you may not come into the time of trial. The spirit indeed is willing, but the flesh is weak." And again, he went away and prayed, saying the same words. And once more he came and found them sleeping, for their eyes were very heavy, and they did not know what to say to him. He came a third time and said to them, "Are you still sleeping and taking your rest? Enough. The hour has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into the hands of sinners. Get up, let us be going. See, my betrayer is at hand."
As we make our way through this season of Lent, it's sometimes hard to believe that Easter is only 2 weeks away. And so this story, as part of this cycle, I thought was important for us to hear this day. In this story, Jesus attempts to ask for what he needs in the midst of his anxiety, what's coming, and the distress. He seeks to do it in 2 ways. One, he says to the disciples, "Come with me. I can't do this alone. I recognize that I need the companionship, the support of others. Stay with me. And so these disciples, a few of them, not all of them, are invited by Jesus to come and be with him in the midst of that. Jesus goes off to pray, to have that intimate moment of self-reflection with the one who creates him, the one that he uses that intimate name of Father or Abba with. He pleads. He pleads in the midst of this suffering and of this trial that he might not have to endure it. And yet there's also a part of him that's resigned to knowing that this is the path that he will need to walk. He returns to the disciples and he finds them asleep. And he's grieved and he's disappointed by that. And he says to them, couldn't you stay awake for even just this 1 hour? And we know in listening to the way in which this story is told, that it wasn't because they didn't want to. It was perhaps because they too were exhausted and didn't have any more resources to give. That their own anxiety and their own fear and their own feeling of being overwhelmed caused them simply to not be able to meet all the expectations of Jesus. Jesus isn't angry with them. He's disappointed. He asks again for what it is that he needs, and he goes off to pray. And when he returns, he finds them once again. They've been unable, but he doesn't know for how long. Maybe they only fell asleep in the last minute or so. Maybe they dropped off immediately. But he simply says to them, come on, let's go now together. Look, here is the one who betrays me. In the midst of this stressful and anxious time, all of us are going to have to learn to ask for what it is that we need. Because our first propensity when people check in with us or phone with us is to say, when we're asked, are you okay? Are things going all right? Yeah, things are fine. And on the surface, it might appear that they are. Margaret and I have found, as many of my colleagues have found, that when we start to have the deeper conversation for a bit longer, we start to uncover the places where we aren't so fine, where we're starting to feel weary or overwhelmed, or anxiety is starting to bubble to the surface, or our worries about our own financial health or our job or that of our children or grandchildren is starting to feel overwhelming. If you're like me, part of your routine probably at the beginning of the day is to turn on the TV and hear what the Prime Minister has to say. And in this process, each of these officials is doing their best to ask for what it is that they need. But we also need to be aware that at times people will not be able to provide for all that we need. That doesn't prevent us from asking again, and maybe them being able to rise to that occasion, or finding someone else who might be able to do that. It also requires us to have a sense of grace and understanding that in the midst of all of this, it may be hard for people to meet our needs. And it's not because they don't love us, or they don't care for us, or they aren't committed to us in some way, shape, or form, but for reasons perhaps unknown to us. Their capacity to do what it is we need may not be there. Jesus, as always, responds with grace and kindness. And that's what's being called out from us as a community, as individuals, as faith groups. And when we look around at all the different ways, I've been so impressed that those who are on the margins, be they those who are addicted, those who are living in poverty, that we keep looking for ways to serve those folks and make sure they're not forgotten. And that's important. It's part of our faith response. And can we do everything it is that we're being asked to do? We may not. And that's okay too. Be patient with yourselves in the things that you can't do and respond to the requests that you might be getting from friends and family. And know that ultimately there is this place that we go, like Jesus, to pray to the one who is always there for us. Jesus doesn't get an audible answer to his question. It more becomes a place and a way for him to reflect and to get grounded again and to remind himself this is the path he must walk. Now I want to address another piece that we see starting to sneak in. And in the same way that people like Donald Trump, who have no capacity at all to show leadership in this, there are some also in the Christian church who have no capacity to really understand theologically what's happening. And I've seen posts about this being the will of God, or this being the scourge of God, or the punishment of God, or the will of God. And I want to say as emphatically as I can, the coronavirus is not the will of God. And that where we see God active is in those who respond with faith and compassion and reaching out to others. That's where God is. God doesn't design such things to take away life. For the impetus of God is always toward life. So in this story of today, we know the ending. We know that Easter is on the horizon. We know that about this coronavirus too. It won't last forever. And Easter is on the cusp. And we'll get there together by asking for what we need, by being patient when it can't be offered to us, and knowing that God's will is to move us toward the sense of new life. Does that mean that we can't learn something or be changed as a society and as a people because of this virus? It doesn't mean that at all. And indeed, God's sense of purpose and being can be expressed in the new insights that we get. But God has not caused this as a punishment for others. But we will be judged at how it is that we can be responded, at how it is that we respond to each other. I was watching a YouTube video this morning of a doctor describing the ways in which one might deal with the groceries that come into one's house. And I felt very sad when he prefaced the video in saying, "I'm a medical professional who's working 18 hours a day. Please be kind in your comments below in response to this video." The fact that he had to say that makes me sad. And so I hope that our starting place for everyone that we're interacting with in this world, be they the grocery store clerks, the ones who are holding the lines outside the store, the one we interface with for our medications that's telling us that we can only have a 30-day supply. Whoever it is that you're interfacing with, be it online or in person, is doing the best that they can to meet the needs. So may we show the grace and compassion that Jesus showed and remind ourselves that we will move toward wholeness and new life. I want to end with a poem that's being circulated that many of you have seen, that for me gives a sense of hope and possibility of where we might go in the days ahead, and remind ourselves that what we're doing now in the self-isolating and the quarantining is an act of love, just as Jesus moving into that Garden of Gethsemane with those select few was an act of love. And the poem goes like this. "And then the whole world walked inside and shut their doors and said, we will stop it all, everything, to protect our weaker ones, our sicker ones, our older ones. And nothing in the history of humankind ever felt like love more than this. Some of you asked if it would be possible to have some music as a part of this video. And so we've had a conversation about how we might do that. And the sound recording in this sanctuary that's empty with an iPad isn't going to be the quality of being in a concert hall. But it will be a reminder that all of us are still with you. I've asked Louise to play You'll Never Walk Alone. It's a time-old classic. And as you listen and reflect and are nurtured by the music and the words, may you know that you are not alone, that God makes this journey with you, that your community makes this journey with you, and that Margaret and I continue to be here for you in whatever way and capacity that might be. Ask for what you need, and we'll do our best to respond. Thanks be to God.
When you walk through a storm, hold your head up high. Don't be afraid of the dark. At the end of the storm is a golden sky and the sweet silver song of the Lord. Walk on through the wind, walk on through the rain, though your dreams be tossed and blown. Walk on with hope in your heart, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk alone. Walk on through the wind. Walk on through the rain, and you'll never walk alone. You'll never walk
Morning, beautiful people of God. We do feel your energy and your love and the prayers that you have been sending back to us, and it really does make a difference, so thank you so much. It has been heartening as we have witnessed the way you have been caring for each other in this last 2 weeks. It's as if the love of God keeps cracking us open and calling us forth, as if we are indeed noticing each other and our world with new eyes and new hearts. There is certainly beauty amidst the fear and love amidst the worry. As Mark has shared that recent poem, I also want to thank Karen McIver, who forwarded me these words from a Mary Oliver poem, and I would invite you now to open your hearts in prayer. I wake close to morning. Why do people keep asking to see God's identity papers when the darkness opening into morning is more than enough? O loving God, you who are presence that is beyond mystery, you who are light that encompasses the darkness, you who are energy that moves and shifts and somehow hugs us like a warm blanket in these challenging times in which we now find ourselves. We begin, O God, with gratitude. For surely gratitude is both the gift and the assurance that your identity papers are everywhere we turn. O God, we know you in the beauty of this spring, which reminds us that hope and new life are indeed possible. We know you in the spoken words and actions as friends and family find new ways to convey their love and their care. We know you, O God, in the extreme measures of generosity and sacrifice by so many sectors of society during this global pandemic. To express our thanks through words and actions and music and tears and poetry and scripture and silence is the saving grace to which you call each of us and our whole world. And so we pause now, and dear friends, I invite you to name the gifts that you give thanks for right here and right now. We raise up the many extraordinary people who are laboring tirelessly in these times. Here are some that we hold close. All the healthcare professionals and support staff who are facing the greatest challenges of their careers, including Dr. Bonnie Henry, the Provincial Health Officer, and Dr. Tam at the national level. We remember regular folks such as all of us who are doing our utmost to follow the provincial directives. Those who work in grocery store and retail, who have recently seen the very best and the worst of human nature. We raise up farmers and food producers across this country and world, the truckers who transport the food and the goods. We notice and give thanks for the scientists and the infectious disease specialists who are working tirelessly in this time to find a vaccine. For our federal members of Parliament and the entire network of civil servants as they strive to implement aid packages and assistance throughout this country. God, you who are the calm in this storm. Thousands and thousands of Canadians have been laid off. Many more are frightened and wonder how or if they will come through the days and months to come. We uphold families who are stretched and people of all ages and stages who are feeling lonely and afraid. We also remember these folks and others whom we name in our hearts. Ellen Mahoney's brother, Dave McCary from Langley, who continues to be on life support in ICU, recovering from COVID-19, and his family who remain quarantined at home. We give thanks that they are cautiously optimistic for a slow and steady recovery. Keith and Kathy Wolford, Krista Holpen. We remember Gavin and Kieran, Jan and Brian, that they would know they are loved and lovable. Betty Newell gives thanks for her son and his wife's safe return from Italy. They had been home 2 weeks and they are well. We particularly remember those who are always on the edges, including those who live and work on the streets, and those who are reliant on our social agencies, and those in remote areas of this country where access to health care can be scarce at the best of times. God, source of life and breath of our very breath, as we carry on in these anything but normal times, may we continue to love fiercely as did Jesus. May we find our way as a world community who realizes as never before our interconnectedness to all living beings and this planet. May we laugh and cry and pray and sing as if to boldly declare it is a gift to simply be alive. May we never take this gift for granted. Amen.
And so as we end this time together, may the grace, peace, and love of God be with you all as it flows through, in, and amongst us in ways both named and unnamed, that you may know that you are as near as every breath that you take and every beat of your heart to the very essence